Hello! So I've decided to make a little video for you guys to talk about the stuff that I brought when I hiked the Vermont Long Trail last summer. I had a couple of you ask about gear and just how I made certain things work, so here's the video for you guys. Alright, so I think what I'm going to start off with is my sleep setup. So first off, I bought this tent before I left to go on the long trail. I used to hammock camp a lot, but I get migraines really easily, so if I slept wrong in the hammock, then I would just end up having a really bad migraine. So I decided to switch back to sleeping in a tent. So this tent is probably the lightest one I've ever had. I knew that the long trail was known for how much rain it got on it, so I wanted to get a tent that would be good for just like a lot of rain or windy rain, because I did not want any wet gear while hiking the trail. Luckily though, since I hiked it closer to the fall, it didn't even rain that much. So, but I will be hiking the Colorado Trail this summer, which if you guys don't know, there's a lot of like thunderstorms and stuff later in the day, so I am happy that I have a tent that will be good for that. Next, I have my sleeping pad. This is just a Nemo inflatable pad. It worked really well. I'd say the only issue is I do kind of wish I had one that was a bit wider, because I sleep kind of curled up in a ball, so I may buy one that's a bit like wider and shorter. Other than that, this works really well. It did deflate sometimes in the middle of the night. I don't know if it was because it got really cold or if there was a leak, but that was kind of a pain, so I am on the hunt for a new sleeping pad. The last thing that I had was I wanted a pillow. I know with past overnighters I would just use my clothes bag, but again, with the migraines being easily triggered, I wanted something that was a bit more comfortable for my head. My mom actually found this for me on Amazon. There were other more like expensive, lighter brands, but this is already pretty light. It's Trekology pillow. It's just inflatable, very easy to use, straps onto your sleeping pad so it doesn't slide around everywhere. It was pretty cozy. Last thing I have is my sleeping bag. It's just a sleeping bag from Eastern Mountain Sports. It's a 20-degree one, so it was pretty warm on those nights where it would get into like the 30s when I was sleeping up at higher elevations. I did just buy, I'm switching to a sleeping quilt for when I hike the Colorado Trail. I'm really trying to make my gear a lot lighter because there will be bigger water carries, and I really don't want to be uncomfortable when I'm carrying all of that weight. So I think I'm going to talk about what I brought for clothes now. I didn't really bring any of my base layers out here, so I will just explain what I did for that. I did have, I think, one or two like tank top sports bras things, and those are what I would really switch back and forth between on the trail. I would also have just a normal clean tank top to wear for when I was in town. I had a pair of long pants for hiking, 2 pairs of shorts for hiking, and then I also had a pair of leggings for when I was in town. So I also brought 3 pairs of socks. I know some people just do like 2, but I like my 3 because they can get wet. I have rain odds, so my main goal is I have to keep my feet warm and dry. Otherwise, it's not a very fun time for me. I also had my beanie. I had a normal hat that I would hike in on warmer days, and I had a thin pair of gloves for the colder nights. I also had a thin long sleeve shirt that I would wear. I had a thin fleece for colder days and colder nights. I would bring my rain jacket, and when I started off on the trail I did not bring a puffy jacket because I knew it wouldn't be getting that cold at night, but towards like the second half, that's when I added on my puffy jacket. This is just like a Columbia jacket. It was a bit heavy and it did take up a good amount of space in my pack, so I did just buy a new jacket. It's an Eddie Bauer jacket. It's very light, but it's very warm, packs up very small. For shoes, I have stuck with these Solomons for a long time. I have pretty like narrow feet, so these are the brand that works best for me. The other thing I like about these is I'm used to going barefoot everywhere, so when I hike, I want my shoes to be very light. I don't want it to feel like I'm picking up any extra weight each step that I do. So I do like these, they're very light. I'd say the one downside is the tread is not the best. These are actually my second pair of these. I went through my first one and then just wanted the same brand. Unfortunately, they don't have these anymore, so I am gonna have to switch to a new pair of shoes at some point. So I'm probably gonna have to get a new pair before I hike the Colorado Trail and break those in and just hope that they work for me. Next, I'm gonna get to food. The one thing that I did ask for my birthday before I hiked the long trail was a lot of just Mountain House freeze-dried meals because they're so expensive and they can be a pain. I was eating other foods too, which I'm gonna make another video, just like questions I got asked about hiking the long trail. But I'd say most nights I would eat one of these. For snacks, I would really rely off of protein bars. My biggest thing was Pop-Tarts. So in order to make these hot meals and stuff, I would also make hot chocolate sometimes. I'd even add in powdered milk to make it yummier. I didn't even grab it. I have the fuel canister, but I would use my jet oil for that. For filtering water, I also forgot to grab that, but I do have a Sawyer squeeze. And I would just bring 3 smart water bottles to fill up for that. Usually I'd fill up all 3 at the water crossings because especially with me hiking later in the year, there weren't many water sources. It was never a guarantee that you would have water anytime soon, so I just wanted to be careful about that. So I would usually save 1 smart water bottle that I would just put some sort of electrolytes in. One of my medications that I'm on, which I think I mentioned in one of my videos, it's a salt, so I get dehydrated very easily. If I get dehydrated while I'm on that medication, it is not good, especially if I'm in the middle of the woods alone. So I just had to make sure that I was staying very hydrated. With the Sawyer squeeze, I did like it. I have been using one for the past couple of years. But even when I was cleaning it and everything, it just ended up not being super great. The actual pouch that you would squeeze, it actually broke, like a hole popped in it. So whenever I'd have to use it, I had to cover the hole so that water wasn't squirting out. So I do want to try to switch to something different, maybe like a platypus or something like that. Also for the Colorado Trail, I do want to bring water purification tablets because there will be some questionable water sources that I'm not just going to trust a water filter for. Next, I'm going to talk about sort of what I had for my first aid stuff. I had afterbite. When I get bit by mosquitoes, they usually swell up to a pretty big size, so I really need to make sure I have that. I also brought Benadryl because that helps with, I don't know if I'm allergic to them or what, but it helps with the bites. Also brought Benadryl just for allergies, and if I had a bad migraine at night, that would help me sleep. I also made sure to have some like Pepto if I had any stomach issues. I had a good amount of Advil. I made sure to have some sunscreen, even if it wasn't super hot or anything, just if you're up on exposed mountains in the sun, you need to make sure you have that. And just bug spray too. The bug spray and the afterbite I actually did not have to use a lot, which was very nice because again, I hiked it later in the year, so there were barely any mosquitoes when I was hiking the trail. For hygiene, I think I did bring a bit more than most people bring because I just really want to make sure I'm like clean on the trail. So I did bring some dried up like baby wipes just so I could just kind of wipe down my body, my face, just feel a bit cleaner after a day on the trail. I brought a razor. I also brought a mini hairbrush. Usually I wouldn't worry about that, but if I go like a day without brushing my hair, it turns into a big matted mess. That's also why I had my hair in braids a lot, because if I just had it in a normal ponytail or something, again, it would just turn into a big matted mess. The other thing I had this very light towel. It would be nice for days that I'd just like go swimming in a river or something. I also had a headlamp, obviously. This is not the one that I brought. The one that I brought was a rechargeable one. It was lighter, it didn't have batteries in it, so that was nice. So because of that, I had to bring a portable charger. I did just start off with this one, but with me having to charge, I also had a Garmin that I'll show you later. So I had my Garmin, my phone, and my headlamp. All of those ended up using a good amount of charge, so I actually ended up bringing a second portable charger too. It was a bit more weight, but it was definitely worth it, so that I wasn't stressing out about any of that stuff dying while I was still days away from my next stop in town. But yeah, so here's the Garmin that I have. It was actually sort of my mom's, or I think she bought it kind of for both of us. And I used to be such a pain about bringing it. Whenever I'd do an overnighter in the Whites or something, she would make me bring it. I used to get very annoyed at her, but I am actually very happy that I had this with me on the trail. It helped a lot and made me feel a lot safer. Speaking of being safe, I also had pepper spray. People asked why I didn't bring bear spray. I wasn't too worried about the bears or the animals. I was more worried about people that I would run into on the trail. I do want to start bringing a knife with me too, so I need to find a good knife for that. If you have any suggestions, please comment those. The most important thing that I almost forgot to tell you guys about, I used a ULA pack. I used to use an Osprey pack, but oh my gosh, after switching to this is so much lighter. I'd say the one downside is it doesn't have as much pockets or anything as other packs, but you can make that work just by using stuffed sacks and everything. You can also see I have my Crocs attached to here. That's what I used for camp shoes. And a lot of times I would put a trash bag on the inside of this. Even though I had a pack cover for when it was raining, I just really wanted to make sure that everything inside did not get wet in any way. But yeah, I think I mostly covered everything. If you have any more questions, please let me know in the comments. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm also going to do another video of just other questions that people asked me about hiking the long trail. So ask any questions that you have. And yes, I apologize for not having much hiking content recently. I'm still sort of recovering from my knee injury, and with it being the spring, the weather's not been that great. It's just a lot of rain, but I am hoping that I can get back into doing some more hiking before I drive out to do the Colorado Trail. Have some more videos of me finishing up hiking the 4,000 footers. But yeah, anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will have another video out soon for you guys.